The ground shook beneath her feet as Private Rose Miller ran through the crumbling ruins of what had once been downtown Seattle. Smoke filled the air, and the sound of distant explosions echoed through the empty streets. She clutched her rifle tightly, her breathing heavy inside her damaged combat helmet. 3 days had passed since the alien ships appeared in Earth's skies. Nobody expected them to attack so quickly, without warning or demand. The military had barely time to respond before the major cities fell under their devastating weapon systems. Rose's unit had been completely wiped out during the initial assault. She'd been separated from them when a blast knocked her into an underground parking structure, saving her life but leaving her alone in a city overrun by the invaders. Her radio was dead, and she hadn't seen another human survivor in over 24 hours. The aliens called themselves the Bright Ones, though there was nothing bright about their actions. Their tall, silvery forms moved with an unnatural grace as they swept through the streets, their advanced weapons turning buildings to ash. Rose had observed them from hiding, learning their patrol patterns, trying to find any weakness she could exploit. She ducked into an abandoned coffee shop as another patrol passed nearby. Their heavy footsteps echoed on the broken pavement, and she held her breath. Through the dusty window, she could see their armor gleaming in the weak sunlight that managed to penetrate the smoke-filled sky. These weren't like the aggressive warriors she'd faced in the initial attack, these moved more carefully, almost as if they were searching for something. Rose checked her ammunition, 3 magazines left, plus the one in her rifle. Her canteen was nearly empty, and she had only 2 protein bars left in her pack. She knew she couldn't stay hidden forever, but she refused to give up. Someone had to survive to tell others what happened here. As she prepared to move to her next hiding spot, a sound caught her attention, something different from the usual chaos of the invasion. It was crying, the unmistakable sound of a child in distress. Rose's training told her to stay hidden, to focus on survival. But her heart pulled her toward the sound. Keeping low, she moved through the shop's back door and into the alley behind it. The crying grew louder. Behind a dumpster, she found a small boy, no more than 6 years old, curled up and shivering. His clothes were dirty, and a small cut on his forehead had dried blood around it. When he saw Rose, his eyes widened with fear until he noticed her uniform. "Hey there, buddy," she whispered, kneeling beside him. "I'm here to help. I'm a soldier." The boy launched himself into her arms, crying harder but trying to stay quiet. Rose held him close, her mind racing to figure out what to do next. She couldn't leave him here, but moving with a child would make everything more dangerous. "My name's Rose. Can you tell me yours?" "Tommy," he managed between sobs. "Okay, Tommy. We need to be very quiet, Anne." A shadow fell across the alley entrance. Rose's blood ran cold as she saw the unmistakable silhouette of a Bright One. It was massive, standing at least 8 feet tall, its silvery armor catching what little light filtered into the alley. Rose pushed Tommy behind her and raised her rifle, knowing it would probably be useless against the alien's advanced armor. But she would die protecting this child if she had to. The Bright One took a step forward, then did something completely unexpected. It raised its hands in what seemed to be a universal gesture of peace. Its helmet retracted, revealing a face that was surprisingly gentle despite its alien features. "Please," it spoke in perfect English, its voice soft and melodious. "We mean you no harm. We are not the ones who attacked your world." Rose kept her rifle steady, confusion warring with her training. "I saw your kind destroying the city. Killing people." The alien's large, iridescent eyes showed what looked like genuine sadness. "Those were the darkened ones. They stole our ships, our technology. We have been pursuing them across the galaxy, trying to stop their campaign of destruction. We are here to help." As if to prove its point, the alien slowly reached into a compartment in its armor and pulled out something that made Tommy gasp, a small, worn teddy bear that the boy had dropped while fleeing. I believe this belongs to the little one, the alien said, carefully placing the bear on the ground and stepping back. We are gathering survivors, protecting them. There are others like you, safe in our care. Please, let us help you both. Rose's finger remained on the trigger, but doubt crept into her mind. The alien's behavior was completely different from the brutal efficiency she'd witnessed during the attack. And if it wanted to harm them, it could have done so already. Tommy peeked around her leg, looking at his bear, then at the alien. Rose, he whispered. I think it's telling the truth. Rose Miller, the last soldier of her unit, faced a choice that would change not only her fate but possibly the future of human-alien relations forever. Rose's mind raced as she assessed her options. The alien remained perfectly still, its gentle eyes fixed on her with what appeared to be genuine concern. Tommy had already slipped past her and grabbed his teddy bear, clutching it tightly to his chest. If what you're saying is true, Rose said, keeping her rifle raised, prove it. Show me these survivors. The alien, who introduced itself as Light Bearer Ray, activated a holographic display from its armor. Crystal-clear images appeared in the air between them, showing hundreds of humans in what looked like a massive, high-tech shelter. Medical personnel moved among them, treating injuries with advanced equipment. Children played in designated areas while adults helped distribute food and supplies. This is our primary sanctuary, Ray explained. We established it beneath Pike Place Market. The underground structure provided ideal protection, and we've reinforced it with our shield technology. Rose lowered her weapon slightly, studying the images. She recognized several faces, civilians she'd seen around the city before the invasion. They looked healthy, safe, and surprisingly calm. Why? She asked. Why help us? Ray's expression shifted to something that might have been a smile. Because it is who we are. The Bright Ones have protected developing civilizations for millennia. When the Darkened Ones broke away from our society and began their campaign of conquest, we vowed to follow and help their victims. A distant explosion made them all jump. Ray's helmet instantly reformed around its head. We must move quickly. The Darkened Ones are becoming desperate as more of our forces arrive. They've begun targeting civilian areas with increasing frequency. As if to emphasize the point, the ground trembled beneath their feet. Tommy pressed closer to Rose, whimpering softly. She made her decision. Okay, she said, finally lowering her rifle completely. Lead the way. Ray activated what looked like a small disc on its armor. A shimmering field of energy extended around them, creating a protective bubble. Stay close. This shield will protect us from debris and make us invisible to Darkened One sensors. They moved through the ruins of Seattle, Ray leading them through a complex route that avoided the areas of heaviest fighting. Rose watched in amazement as energy blasts from distant battles simply deflected off their shield. Tommy seemed fascinated by the technology, his earlier fear replaced by wonder. As they traveled, Ray explained more about the conflict. The Darkened Ones were once part of their civilization but had grown hungry for power. They'd stolen advanced weapons and ships, launching surprise attacks on numerous worlds. The Bright Ones had been pursuing them across the galaxy, trying to prevent more destruction while helping survivors rebuild. Your world's military response was impressive, Ray noted as they passed a destroyed alien vessel. No other civilization has managed to down so many Darkened One ships in the initial attack. It's one reason we chose Earth as our main base for this sector. Rose felt a surge of pride at those words. So humanity's resistance made a difference? More than you know. Your tactics are being studied by our strategists. The Darkened Ones had grown complacent, never expecting such effective resistance from a less advanced species. They reached what appeared to be a dead end, a collapsed building blocking an old cobblestone street. Ray placed its hand on a seemingly random brick, and a hidden entrance appeared. As the wall shifted aside, Rose could hear voices echoing from below, human voices. "Welcome," Ray said, gesturing toward the entrance, to humanity's first intergalactic embassy. Tommy grabbed Rose's hand, squeezing it excitedly. She squeezed back, realizing that they were about to step into something much bigger than just a sanctuary. They were about to become part of humanity's first steps into a larger universe. As they descended the stairs, Rose couldn't help but wonder, how would her military training fit into this new reality where humanity's greatest allies came from the stars? The underground sanctuary was nothing like Rose had imagined. What was once Pike Place Market's basement had been transformed into a vast, multi-level complex. Soft, ambient light emanated from the walls themselves, creating a warm and welcoming atmosphere despite being underground. As they walked through the main entrance, other bright ones nodded respectfully to Ray. Rose noticed they all wore slightly different armor colors, some silver like Ray's, others with hints of blue or gold. She wondered if these represented different roles or ranks. "Rose," a familiar voice called out. She turned to see Captain Jack Peters, her former commanding officer, walking quickly toward them. He looked healthy despite a bandage on his forehead. "We thought you were dead when the command center was hit." She snapped to attention, but the captain waved it off and pulled her into a brief hug. "At ease, soldier. Military protocols a bit different down here. We're all working together now, military, civilians, and our new allies." Tommy tugged at Rose's sleeve. "Can I go play?" He pointed to a nearby area where other children were engaged with what looked like holographic toys under the supervision of both humans and bright ones. "Of course," Ray answered before Rose could speak. "Light-bearer Dawn will take good care of him." Another bright one, slightly smaller than Ray and with armor trimmed in soft gold, approached and held out a hand to Tommy. The boy went without hesitation, his earlier fear of the aliens completely gone. "Come," Captain Peters said. "There's something you need to see." They followed him through the complex, passing areas that seemed dedicated to different purposes. There was a medical bay where Bright One technology was being used alongside human medical equipment. A massive communications center showed holographic displays of battles happening around the globe. Most surprisingly, she saw human soldiers working side by side with Bright Ones, studying tactical displays and planning operations. "We're not just hiding down here," the captain explained. "We're fighting back. The Bright Ones are teaching us how to use their technology, and we're teaching them about Earth's terrain and warfare tactics. It's a partnership." They entered a large strategic planning room where a massive holographic globe floated in the center. Red dots showed positions of Darkened One forces, while blue indicators represented combined human and Bright One resistances. "The tide is turning," Ray said, gesturing to the display. The Darkened Ones expected to conquer Earth within days. Instead, they faced the strongest resistance they've ever encountered, thanks to humanity's determination and our combined forces. Rose studied the tactical display with professional interest. "These patterns, they're falling back to their ships. Are they retreating?" "Not yet," Captain Peters replied. "But they're concentrating their forces. Which means they're planning something big. That's where you come in, Rose." She turned to face him, raising an eyebrow. "Sir? The Bright Ones have been impressed by your survival skills. 3 days alone in occupied territory, protecting civilians, observing enemy movements, you've seen things that could be crucial to our next operation." Ray stepped forward. "We're forming special mixed units, human soldiers paired with Bright One warriors. Your experience with both combat and keeping young Tommy safe shows you understand something crucial, the balance between warrior and protector. We need that." "What exactly are you asking?" Rose questioned, though she already had a feeling she knew the answer. Captain Peters smiled. "We want you to lead one of these mixed units. You'll be working directly with Ray and other Bright Ones, training both species to work together effectively. It's completely voluntary, but... I'm in, Rose interrupted. She thought of Tommy, of all the other civilians they needed to protect, of humanity's future among the stars. When do we start? A deep rumble shook the complex before anyone could answer. Dust fell from the ceiling as warning signals began flashing. Right now, it seems, Ray said, its armor shimming as it activated combat systems. The Darkened Ones have launched their attack sooner than expected. Are you ready for your first official mission as a mixed unit commander? Rose checked her rifle, now modified with Bright One technology. Ready. But first, I need to make sure Tommy's safe. Already done, Captain Peters assured her. All civilians are being moved to the lower levels. Dawn will protect them. Rose nodded, her soldier's instincts kicking in as she surveyed the tactical display one more time. Then let's show these Darkened Ones what happens when they mess with humanity and our new friends. The command center erupted into organized chaos as Rose and Ray assembled their mixed unit. 6 human soldiers and 6 Bright Ones gathered around them, all equipped with modified weapons that combined Earth military hardware with alien technology. The Darkened Ones are targeting our shield generators, Ray explained, projecting a detailed map of the area above Seattle. They've discovered our sanctuary's location and are attempting to breach our defenses with their heaviest weapons. Rose studied the tactical display, noting the enemy positions. They're using a 3-pronged attack pattern. But look here, she pointed to a gap in their formation. They've left their western flank exposed. They're not expecting us to counterattack. Because they believe we're trapped, one of the human soldiers, Private Mark Wilson, added. They don't know about the tunnel network we've built. The Bright One warriors nodded in appreciation of the tactical insight. One of them, designated Light-Bearer Steel, stepped forward. Our armor can temporarily project shield bubbles around small groups. If we coordinate with the human soldiers' mobility, we can hit them from multiple directions simultaneously, Rose finished, seeing the strategy form. Ray, can your shields protect us from their heavy weapons? For approximately 3 minutes of continuous fire, Ray confirmed. More than enough time for precise strikes. Rose made her decision. We'll split into 4 teams of 3, 1 Bright One and 2 humans each. My team takes the central tunnel. Steel, you take the west. Ray, east. Light-Bearer Sun, you're our reserve force, be ready to reinforce whichever team needs support. Captain Peters watched from the command station, nodding in approval. The main defense force will keep their attention focused on the front. Your teams will be on your own once you leave the sanctuary. Just the way I like it, Rose said with a grim smile. She turned to her unit. Remember your training. The Bright One's shields are our best defense, but they need time to recharge. Move fast, strike hard, and stay close to your teammates. As they prepared to move out, Rose caught sight of Tommy watching from a secure observation area. He waved, clutching his teddy bear, and she waved back. Light-Bearer Dawn stood protectively beside him, giving Rose a reassuring nod. The boy was safe, now she could focus entirely on the mission. The teams moved through the tunnel network, guided by holographic markers projected from the Bright One's armor. Rose could hear the thunder of enemy weapons above, feeling the vibrations through the tunnel walls. But the sanctuary's shields were holding, for now. First target in range, Steel reported through their linked communications. Enemy artillery position identified. All teams check in, Rose commanded, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. East team ready. Reserve force in position. West team awaiting orders. Rose took a deep breath, thinking of everything that had brought her to this moment. 3 days ago, she'd been a lone soldier in a ruined city. Now she was leading a combined force of humans and aliens in humanity's first major counterattack against an interstellar threat. Remember, she said to her teams, we're not just fighting for Seattle anymore. We're fighting for Earth's place among the stars. The darkened ones think they're superior because of their technology. Let's show them what happens when human determination meets bright one wisdom. She raised her modified rifle, its power cells humming with alien energy. On my mark, all teams execute. 3, 2, 1. The tunnel exit slid open silently, revealing the chaos above. Darkened One forces had positioned their heavy weapons in what they thought were secure locations. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Mark. For shield bubbles blazed to life as the combined teams emerged from different points around the enemy position. The Darkened Ones, focused on their bombardment of the sanctuary, never saw them coming. Rose's voice carried across all channels as her team engaged their first target, for Earth and the Light. The battlefield erupted into chaos as Rose's mixed units struck from all sides. The Darkened One's heavy weapons, designed to breach the sanctuary's shields, proved too slow to track the fast-moving strike teams. Rose's modified rifle sang with alien energy as she led her team through their first target zone. Western artillery disabled, Steele reported, his team already moving to their secondary objective. Minimal resistance encountered. Rose ducked behind a fallen concrete pillar as return fire lit up the morning sky. The bright one on her team, Light-Bearer Beam, projected their shield just in time to deflect a barrage of energy bolts. East Team, status? Heavy resistance, Ray's voice crackled through the comm, they've adapted quickly. Requesting reserve support. Light-Bearer Sun, reinforce Ray's position, Rose commanded. She watched the tactical display projected inside her visor, noting how the Darkened Ones were already trying to regroup. All teams, be advised, they're changing formation. Watch for flanking maneuvers. The battle flowed like a deadly dance. Human soldiers darted between cover positions while their Bright One partners provided shield support and heavy firepower. The Darkened Ones, despite their superior technology, struggled to counter this new fighting style that combined human tactical flexibility with Bright One defensive capabilities. Their command vehicle is moving. Private Wilson called out. Trying to establish a new firing position. Rose saw the opportunity immediately. All teams converge on my position. We can trap them between our forces and the sanctuary's shields. The four teams executed a perfect pincer movement, herding the Darkened Ones toward the sanctuary's strongest shield section. Captain Peter's voice came through the comm. Rose, we're reading massive energy buildup in their command vehicle. They're preparing something big. They're not retreating, Ray warned, his tone urgent. These readings suggest. The command vehicle's hull split open, revealing a weapon unlike anything Rose had seen before. Energy crackled around it in sickly green arcs. It's a void crusher. Light-Bearer Steele shouted. Everyone get back. But Rose saw something else, a familiar small figure darting across a balcony near the sanctuary's entrance. Tommy had somehow slipped away from the secure area, probably trying to watch the battle. He stood frozen, directly in the weapon's line of fire. Without hesitation, Rose broke from her position, sprinting toward the boy. Beam! Shield me! Her Bright One teammate responded instantly, projecting a shield bubble around her as she ran. The Void Crusher fired, its beam of destructive energy cutting through the air where she had stood moments before. Rose reached Tommy just as the weapon's secondary pulse began charging. All Bright Ones, converge shields on Rose's position. Ray commanded. Full power. Multiple shield bubbles overlapped around Rose and Tommy as the Void Crusher fired again. The combined barrier held, but Rose could hear the Bright One straining to maintain it. The weapon was designed specifically to break their shield technology. Can't hold much longer, Beam gasped. Rose looked down at Tommy, then at her modified rifle. The Void Crusher was still charging for another shot, its power core exposed. She had one chance. Ray, on my mark, drop the shields for exactly 1 second. Wilson, Steele, target these coordinates. She transmitted the firing solution to her team. Rose, that's too risky, Ray protested. Trust me, she replied, positioning her rifle. Everyone ready? 3, 2, 1. Mark. The shields dropped. In that split second, 3 modified rifles and Rose's own weapon fired simultaneously. Their combined shots, enhanced by Bright 1 technology, struck the Void Crusher's exposed core. The resulting explosion sent a shockwave across the battlefield, flipping the command vehicle and scattering the remaining Darkened One forces. When the dust settled, the enemy was in full retreat. The Sanctuary's shields had held, and though some of the Bright Ones were exhausted from the shield strain, there were no casualties among the mixed units. Tommy looked up at Rose with wide eyes. That was amazing. But I'm in trouble, aren't I? Rose couldn't help but laugh, the release of tension overwhelming her momentary anger at his reckless behavior. Oh yes, young man. You and I are going to have a very long talk about following safety protocols. After, Ray interrupted, we celebrate this victory. The Darkened Ones will think twice before attacking this sanctuary again. As her team gathered around, Rose realized something profound had changed on the battlefield today. This wasn't just a victory for Earth, it was proof that humans and Bright Ones could do more than just coexist. They could become something greater together. The sanctuary's main hall had been transformed into a celebration space. Humans and Bright Ones mingled freely, sharing stories of the battle and trading insights about their different combat techniques. Rose sat at a table with her mixed unit, watching Tommy demonstrate to a group of fascinated Bright Ones how his teddy bear worked. The young one shows remarkable resilience, Ray observed, sitting down beside her. Much like humanity itself. Rose nodded, thinking about how much had changed in just a few days. We've all had to adapt quickly. But I never expected to find such genuine friendship among the stars. Captain Peters approached their table, carrying what looked like modified tablet computers. Speaking of friendship, our Bright One allies have brought us some interesting news from their long-range scouts. He activated one of the tablets, projecting a holographic map of the solar system. Red dots representing Darkened One ships were rapidly moving away from Earth, while blue markers showed Bright One reinforcements arriving from multiple directions. They're really leaving? Private Wilson asked, leaning forward to study the display. Not just leaving, Ray explained. They're retreating across multiple sectors. Our victory here has had far-reaching consequences. The Darkened Ones built their strategy on the assumption that less advanced civilizations would be easy to conquer. Humanity has proven that technological superiority isn't everything. Light-bearer Steele joined them, his armor showing signs of the recent battle but still gleaming. Our council has made a decision. We wish to establish a permanent alliance with Earth. The room grew quiet as more people gathered to listen. Rose noticed Dawn guiding Tommy back to their table, the boy's eyes wide with excitement. What kind of alliance? Captain Peters asked, though his smile suggested he already knew. Ray stood, his armor shifting to display formal diplomatic symbols. Earth has proven itself not just as a warrior culture, but as one that understands the balance between strength and compassion. We propose to make this sanctuary the first of many joint bases. We will share our technology, our knowledge, and our protection, while learning from humanity's unique perspectives and abilities. There's more, Steele added. The mixed unit program was a test, one that exceeded our highest expectations. We want to expand it, creating a joint defense force that will help protect other worlds from threats like the Darkened Ones. Rose felt Tommy's small hand slip into hers. Does this mean we get to go to space? He whispered loudly, causing several people to laugh. That's exactly what it means, Dawn answered, her golden armor glowing warmly. But first, we have work to do here on Earth. Other cities need our help to rebuild. Captain Peters turned to Rose. Which brings us to your next assignment, if you're willing to accept it. We want you to help train the next generation of mixed units. Your experience from both before and during the battle makes you uniquely qualified. Rose looked around at her team, humans and bright ones who had fought beside her, trusted her, and helped her protect not just the sanctuary but the future of human-alien relations. She thought about Tommy, and all the other children who would grow up in a world where the stars weren't just distant lights, but destinations filled with friends and allies. On one condition, she said, standing to face the gathered crowd. We make sure every unit understands what we learned here. That true strength isn't just about having the best weapons or the strongest shields. It's about being willing to protect each other, to trust each other, and to believe that different species can work together to create something better than they could achieve alone. Ray placed a hand on her shoulder, its touch surprisingly gentle despite the armor. That understanding is exactly why we chose Earth as our allies. Now, shall we begin planning the next phase of our cooperation? As the room erupted in cheers and conversation, Rose felt a profound sense of purpose. The invasion that had nearly destroyed her world had instead opened the door to humanity's greatest adventure. And she would help lead the way, one mixed unit at a time. 1 month after the Battle of Seattle, Rose stood at the observation deck of the newly constructed Earthbright 1 Joint Command Center. The city below was transforming rapidly as alien technology helped rebuild destroyed buildings and infrastructure. But more impressive than the physical reconstruction was the sight of humans and bright ones working together everywhere she looked. Thinking deep thoughts? Ray asked, joining her at the window. Its armor had been modified with new insignia showing its role as chief liaison between the two species. Just remembering how different things were a month ago, Rose replied. When I was hiding in that coffee shop, thinking I was one of the last survivors. And now you're one of the first instructors at the Joint Defense Academy, Ray said with pride. Your first class starts tomorrow, doesn't it? Rose nodded, watching a group of Bright 1 ships escort a human aircraft in landing procedures. The integration of their technologies had progressed faster than anyone expected, driven by the enthusiasm of both species to learn from each other. 20 human cadets and 20 Bright 1 warriors, she confirmed. Including some promising young candidates who've never seen combat. I'm hoping that's a good thing, that they'll learn cooperation from the start instead of having to overcome fear and suspicion first. A familiar voice called from behind them. Commander Rose. Commander Ray. They turned to see Tommy running toward them, wearing a miniature version of the new Joint Defense Force uniform. Lightbearer Dawn followed close behind, having taken on the role of guardian for the boy after discovering his parents hadn't survived the initial invasion. How was school today? Rose asked, kneeling to his level. The new integrated education system was another symbol of their growing alliance. Amazing. We learned about different alien planets, and Dawn showed us holograms of all the places we might visit someday. His excitement was contagious. Is it true that I can join the academy when I'm older? If that's what you want, Rose smiled. But you've got plenty of time to decide. The alliance will only grow stronger while you grow up. Captain Peters, now Colonel Peters, entered the observation deck with Lightbearer Steele. Both wore the formal uniforms of the Joint Command. Final reports from around the globe, Peters announced. The last Darkened 1 ships have left the solar system. Long-range sensors show them heading for deep space, likely abandoning this sector entirely. And our defense network? Rose asked. Steele activated a holographic display showing Earth and its new orbital protection grid. Fully operational. Combined human Bright 1 crews are staffed on all platforms. We're also detecting promising candidates for the academy in other cities. Your training program will be crucial as we expand. There's something else, Dawn added, placing a gentle hand on Tommy's shoulder. The Council has approved the first civilian exchange program. Families from both species will have the opportunity to live and work together, learning each other's cultures directly. Tommy's eyes lit up. Does that mean Dawn can officially be my new mom? The room fell silent for a moment before Dawn knelt beside him. If that's what you want, little one. Our species may look different, but family is about love, not appearance. Rose felt tears in her eyes as she watched Tommy throw his arms around Dawn's armored form. It was moments like these that made all the fighting worthwhile. You know, Ray said quietly, when we first detected the darkened ones heading toward Earth, we feared we would arrive too late to help. Instead, we found not just allies, but a species that would help reshape the very nature of galactic society. Humans don't just adapt to change, you embrace it, improve upon it, and show others how to do the same. Rose looked out at the city again, seeing not just the reconstruction but the birth of something entirely new. Human children playing with young bright ones, scientists of both species sharing discoveries, soldiers training together to protect not just Earth but all peaceful civilizations. We survived, she said simply. And more than that, we found hope among the stars. Not just for humanity, but for all species who believe in protecting life rather than destroying it. As the sun set over Seattle, its light reflected off the shields that now protected the city. But these weren't barriers to keep others out, they were symbols of the protection that comes from true friendship, understanding, and trust. The future had never looked brighter.